Am I on? Yes. I'd like to direct a question to Mr. Lindsay Tanner, but first I'd like to congratulate Scott on his bravery of coming along here to what would appear to be an audience. But perhaps you didn't realise the audience you were coming to. Your address was more like the one you might have thought you were at a small business owners meeting, I think, because you didn't seem to address any of the problems we put forward to you. Okay, Mr. Tanner, you're telling me that reform can only be produced by major parties in power swinging their big stick we have behind them. Does this mean you would take no notice if you were returned on a very narrow majority on the preferences of the Greens, the Socialist Alliance and the Democrats, and you only just squeaked in, or heaven forfend, you fall out and one of them gets elected and goes into the House? Would this make no difference to the reforms you say you can do? Thank you.
You have a number of questions. You might just try and restrict it to 1 minute this time and just continue on 1 minute to the rest.
The answer is that I think it would make a difference if I don't get elected to the House of Representatives. Because one thing you need to keep in mind, and it's for others to judge how progressive or non-progressive I am personally, but one thing you need to keep in mind is that if you start to remove progressive members from the Labor caucus, the Labor Party will change. The Labor Party will be a different political beast, and those progressive forces will be reflected somewhere else in a different way. So I would suggest, yes, it will make a difference to have people like myself and Anthony Albanese and Tanya Plibersek and Penny Wong and others in the Labor caucus. Take us away, the Labor Party changes.
If I could just briefly respond to, while I appreciate your thanks, the speech wasn't meant to be about anything like a small business group. Everyone in here is affected by whether or not they can get a job. There are issues that are common to all of us, and I did not. And while I addressed some of the issues, I knew that there was going to be a report prepared based on our responses. I also wanted to highlight some of the issues that affect everyone. The election is not just about 6 or 7 issues. It's actually about things that affect our daily lives as well, that we all have in common.
Yeah, but we don't care about that. And not employment.
Hi, I'm over here. My question is to Scott Ryan, over here. My name's Jared. I was a previous co-convener of the Rights Lobby. Over the last 12 months, myself and Ali here have met with numerous politicians, specifically around the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission report and the recommendations out of that report. And something that many of the politicians we met with, and most loud from the Liberal politicians, is that they were concerned about the cost of these reforms, and that it's going to be a budgetary cost on society if these reforms are going to be implemented. You talked about the strength of the economy at the moment. I'm wondering, how strong does the economy have to be for us to be able to afford those costs?
Well, I think, firstly, the cost issue is important. And every time the government spends money, it's spending someone else's money. So I think that is important to highlight. Is the economy strong now? Yeah, I did mention that, because I think it's important to contrast today with the past. Is there a guarantee it will always be strong? No. When it comes to the recommendations of the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission report, which I'm making my way through, I haven't got through it all at the moment, I think it's important that those costs are considered. Someone mentioned earlier that there are swings and roundabouts in these things. There will be some winners. Oh, sorry, I'll be quick. There will be some winners and losers. All I can say is the government's given a commitment to consider them on a case-by-case basis. I don't think there's a broad brush answer to your question.
Okay, over here, guys, over in the back.
Turning around, Mr. Cameraman, are you? I'm over here. Oh, you've got it. Hi, everyone. My name is Andre Hayward. I don't appear like a grim reaper, but I think another important issue is regarding HIV and presenting amongst the young people. I think it's become all old hat. You know, all advertisements about HIV and safe sex. So I would like to know, will they make more of a priority to get back to public education? It's very important. I've been nursing now for a few years. And I was unlucky enough to become in contact with some bad blood. This is prior to the government picking up and testing all blood products. Yes, you're winding me up, I can see that going. So, what have you got something in mind, any of you, regarding better health information to the general public and requiring more funding, of course? Thank you. Oh, do you want it back now? Oh.
I will just mention that question was asked in the survey, and there are other responses in the detailed response, but if you'd like to take any other comments about how you can deal with it from a public
I might say a couple. One of the things I think I've locked back on. One of the things that I do in my day job is I'm actually a medico, and I've been spending the last couple of years working specifically on HIV prevention in developing countries, which is a big issue. What we're seeing in this country is we've essentially starting to wind back some of the progress we made in this area. We've seen at a state and federal level governments not do anywhere near enough. We had a very successful epidemic control through things like needle and syringe exchange, through big campaigns around sexual health and so on. But what we've now seen is conservative governments who no longer stand up in defence of harm minimisation. It's all about zero tolerance and waving that sort of rhetoric around. We've wound back some of the progress around those sexual health campaigns, and there needs to be a real and immediate refocusing on the gains we made previously and putting some serious funding and attention into that area.
Anybody else going to respond shortly?
Very briefly, I think we need to remove any discrimination and any legislation that discriminates against people with HIV/AIDS. There has to be free drugs available. I think that is critical. And there has to be the education again on same-sex. Condoms should be freely available at schools. We cannot be, in a way, held hostage by a tiny, tiny minority that is prepared to sacrifice the future for our next generation. People remember the Grim Reaper ads, which were like 10, 15 years ago. They were useful. We need education again, and maybe it's in a different form, to educate people what is safe sex, you know. It's critical, actually, for our next generation. Because we've had an increase of, 41% of HIV infection. That is unacceptable in this country, and it's because of a negligence of our government, state and federal.
My name's Richard Watts. I'm the editor of MCV, amongst other things, and I should declare a conflict of interest. I'm helping the Greens launch their arts policy tomorrow. But my question is for our Liberal representative, Scott Ryan. Scott, a recent Liberal candidate for the seat of Layla publicly paraded the view based on what I would consider an antiquated religious belief that gays and lesbians are quote-unquote perverts. Now, he wasn't censured by the Liberal Party for these comments. Does this mean that the Liberal Party support and validate his comments? And if they are allowing him freedom of speech as an individual to put these comments forward, why did they then disendorse Pauline Hanson for making similarly kind of antisocial views?
I don't support in any way the comments that candidate made, just to put that on the record. I don't think they reflect the views of the Liberal Party. The Treasurer and our state party made that clear. And I don't think they represent the party's policies or agenda going forward at all. I don't think that's a fair characterisation.
Disendorse him.
Whether the matter, that particular matter, the party decided not to. You can take it up with the party. I can't speak.
We already took it up with the party. Excuse me, ladies and gents. The Victorian Gay and Lesbian Rights Lobby already took it up with the party. The official response from the party, as reported in the Wyndham Leader last week, was that as the candidate's responses were made before he was a candidate 3 years ago in the context of ministers being ordained that were homosexual, the Liberal Party didn't take umbrage with it and would not disendorse him.
Don't.